Hello, welcome back to the channel. So I want to talk about this story which I heard about on Twitter. A bloke called Martin Barrow tweeted, "Another Met Police scandal. A black girl was stripped and searched at school. The search, which involved the exposure of her intimate body parts, took place without an appropriate adult present and with the knowledge that she was menstruating." And there's a link to a case review, which I've read. I've read also the response from Hackney Council. The review highlights lots of failings in this case, and certainly racism was an element in this case. This child had previously been searched on suspicion of possession of cannabis. Teachers detected a smell of cannabis about this child, and they searched her bag and her pockets, didn't find anything. So then on this day, they said this child smelled of cannabis again, so they did a search of her bag and her shoes, didn't find anything. She has a mock GCSE on this day, right? So they've already done all of that and discombobulated her on the morning of her mock. And then during the mock exam, 4 police officers arrive. She is called out of her exam. She's told by staff that the police have come to search her on suspicion that she's in possession of drugs, which she denies because they have already searched her this morning. They take her to the medical room at school. The teachers wait outside. No teacher stays in the room with her as an appropriate adult. The 2 female officers that accompany her into the room conduct a strip search on her, and the level of invasiveness of this search is such that she is told to remove her used sanitary towel. She is made to bend over and spread her buttock cheeks. She's then made to dress and recite the dirty sanitary towel. She's not allowed to go to the toilet, clean herself up. She's allowed to dress. Then they take her back to her mock exam. She's expected to finish her mock exam. That's the final piece of the puzzle, which just blows my mind. The idea that you would take a child out of a mock GCSE exam. Safeguarding principles include the idea that everything we do should be child-centred. So every decision that we make, we should have the child at the centre of that decision. How will this impact the child? What will the benefit of doing this be to the child? It's not about what's most convenient for the school or what a teacher wants to have happen. It's about what's best for a child. And another elementary principle, these are from Working Together, which is like the Safeguarding Bible. Another factor to consider is collaboration. So the idea is that everybody has to talk to each other because we've all got one piece of the puzzle, but you can't see the whole picture unless everybody shares their piece. So the major person that you're going to collaborate with in any form of intervention safeguarding a child is the parent of that child. And the fact that the parent wasn't notified at any stage of this process is outrageous. It really is outrageous. She should have been called if there was any question of her daughter being asked to remove an item of clothing. And I still don't believe that that was justified, but that is a matter for other people to decide. But if that was going to happen, at a bare minimum, her mother should have been notified so that she had the opportunity to come into school and be Child Q's appropriate adult in the room while an examination was taking place. If she wasn't able to attend for whatever reason, then Child Q should have been able to request one of the teachers that was on scene to be her appropriate adult in that room. She should never have been sent into a room with 2 police officers and no appropriate adult. You can't say one of the police officers was the appropriate adult, because the police officers have got their own agenda. They're not focused on what's best for this child. And that's what an appropriate adult is for. They are the person that has the interests of the child front and centre. Everything else recedes into the background for that person, in the way it would for a parent if your child was in that situation, or God forbid anybody's children are ever in this situation again. So what comes through for me from reading the safeguarding review is that the school staff and the police came off the safeguarding tracks and went onto the criminal justice tracks. And this is a problem, because the way you react in a safeguarding situation is completely different to the way you react in a situation where you want to pursue a criminal justice intervention. The reason why they came off the safeguarding tracks and went onto the criminal justice tracks is due to racism. And both the safeguarding review and the council statements explore this issue well. I'll come to it in a little while in the video. But what I want to emphasise is from the point at which the school notified the police to come to the school and perform a more intrusive search on this young woman, they were taking it from a safeguarding angle down a criminal justice route, which in my opinion was inappropriate, because it really needed to be dealt with as a safeguarding issue. If she has access to drugs, that's absolutely a safeguarding issue, and it should be fully investigated by the school. A search might be warranted. The school need to know, are you at risk? Is someone grooming you? Are you supplying other children? Are you exposed to dangerous substances? You know, these are all questions that is completely within the wheelhouse of the school staff to be asking. But you do not build the kind of trust you need to ask and answer those questions by forcing a young woman into such a humiliating and traumatizing situation. How does that help her build trust? How is that working in her best interests in the UN definition? Because that's what we've got to bear in mind when we're safeguarding. We want to do a child-centred intervention, collaborating with the parents of the child, the school and any external agencies, and we need to all be working for the best interests of that child. And if we can keep that in our heads, that should keep us on the right tracks, on the safeguarding tracks. It's so beyond what is acceptable, and certainly racism played a part in it. You're not telling me that a nice white girl from the home counties who comes in and smells of cannabis is getting called out of her mock exam and being forced into this position for police officers to look up her buttocks. Legitimately, this child and her parents, and I'm assuming the entire community in Hackney, are up in arms about this, because it's not okay. This poor child has been very traumatised and is responding to serious trauma. There are reports that her sleep is disturbed, that she's performing acts of self-injury. This is in her GCSE year that this went on. This is 2 years later that this report is being publicised. I cannot even imagine what this girl has gone through in the previous 2 years before even this report has been published. Presumably all this time the school and the police were saying everything was fine, that it was completely normal what happened to her. It's clearly not normal. Further to my point about this being a racist intervention, I note with interest that there's a poll reported in today's Evening Standard which reports that 64% of Londoners believe the Metropolitan Police to be sexist and 64% believe them to be racist. I'm surprised it's not higher. I guess it depends who you ask. I think if you were to ask a black and global majority ethnic population, we would see higher numbers than that. And obviously a white population, you would see lower numbers for racist scores. In the same way, if you ask men if something is racist, if something is sexist, they often can't see it. Why is it sexist if someone asks you to smile? They're just being friendly. So, you know, in the same vein, you know, if your polling includes men and women, the men are going to give a lower score and the women are going to give a higher score. So it would be very interesting to see that polling broken down by sex and by ethnic origin. But yeah, there's absolutely no doubt about it that this was a racist intervention. And I can't speak to that. I'm a white woman. I did try to put myself in the shoes of that mother of child Q. It's too many years since I was at school to try and put myself in the shoes of child Q, but I can empathise with her mother. I have a daughter a similar age, and so I tried to imagine what it would be like, you know, knowing that the police force did that to my child, and my brain kind of broke. You know, this is a deeply traumatic thing to experience. And the Metropolitan Police has a very poor history with racism. I feel for the people of London who are subject to racial oppression and also the victims of crime, because who knows what's going to happen when the police come out to you. It's just a desperately sad situation. I cannot believe that these teachers and police officers have gone about their business for the past 2 years. I want to see heads rolling for this. This is not okay. Anyway, it has been reported now in the Evening Standard, ITV News and in The Guardian, according to Martin Barrow. And women have become aware of this, and women are up in arms about this, because this poor kid has struggled on with this, and I had no idea that this was happening to a child. I'm sure that she'll never see this video, but if she ever does see this video, I want her to know that those people violated you and it was not your fault. You are having a trauma reaction, and of course you are a traumatized child. Anybody, an adult, would be traumatized experiencing what you experienced. Your responses are completely legitimate, and I hope you will find somewhere that you can talk about those responses until the day that they are no longer impeding your quality of life. And that day will come. That day will come. I'm so sorry that this has happened to you, and it has been completely preventable. The school staff were supposed to safeguard you, and they failed. And that is their issue. This is not your fault. I really hope that your mum and your auntie can support you to make any kind of civil claim that is possible against your school and against your local police force. That was not okay. And I don't know how you did in your GCSEs, but I think there's a strong possibility that this trauma will have affected your GCSE results. They absolutely should be called to account for that. I wish you all the best, my love. And once again, I'm just so sorry that this happened to you. So thanks for joining me for the video today. An absolutely appalling case that we've discussed today. I really hope that nobody is ever in that position again at school. I think that I think it's absolutely dreadful. The safeguarding review goes through the situation in some detail. Child Q says, I feel like I'm locked in a box and no one can see or cares that I just want to go back to feeling safe again. My box is collapsing around me and no one wants to help. I don't know if I'm going to feel normal again. I don't know how long it will take to repair my box. But I do know that this can't happen to anyone ever again. I hope that too. So although this case wasn't well publicised, it does seem as though a lot of people have heard about it. So I think it's kind of, it's so outrageous that word is spreading, excuse me. So I suppose that's a good thing. If we bring awareness, we can bring pressure on the local authority and the Metropolitan Police to ensure that this doesn't happen again. The statement made by the council makes some of the right noises. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, you know. We will see if this safeguarding review has worked by the fact that this will never happen again. But none of that recompenses this family for this incredible trauma, and child Q for having her study disrupted on the day of her mocks and throughout her GCSE year, and it is now 2 years later, so she'll be doing A-levels this year if she stayed in school, which given her treatment by the school is doubtful. You know, these are life chances we're talking about. This kid was top of her class. She was a high-achieving black girl. It's outrageous that she was treated this way. It's outrageous that given all of the obstacles she's got to overcome in order to be a high-achieving black girl, top of her class, they throw more obstacles in her path until they break her. Until they break her. And now she won't go out of her room. She's depressed. She won't see her friends. She's self-harming. She feels lifeless. She feels trapped. She's having a completely legitimate trauma reaction. I hope she sues them and gets the absolute best quality care to recover from this trauma. She needs help to process it. It may take some time, but it is a recoverable thing. We do recover from trauma if we're given help to process it. And I hope she is being given that help. So thanks for hanging out with me today. As ever, please do leave me a like or a dislike. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. If you want to donate to my PayPal, there's a link in the description box and I would be very grateful for your support. There will also be a Substack essay published exploring this issue a little bit more. Take care. I'll see you soon.